Hello, everyone. Today I will be reading of a diary of a road trip in the year of 1921, and this is part 2. I hope you guys enjoy it. Santa Fe, New Mexico, Tuesday evening, October 18, year of 1921. We arrived in this historic place, the oldest city in the United States, at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The city marks the end of the Santa Fe Trail and is so advertised on hotel letterheads. With an exception of the last 12 miles, the roads between this point and Las Vegas are rather rough. The latter part of the road through the Sangre de Cristo Mountains is excellent, for it is a hard surface. These mountains contain some of the highest peaks, one peak rising to the height of 13,000 feet, and the scenery is magnificent. Curves in this road are very sharp, and the grades are very deep places, making it necessary as one false turn would send the car rolling down the mountainside. There's an old world atmosphere in Santa Fe. As one walks through the streets of the palace of the governors, he is reminded that these same walls echoed the tread of Spanish cavaliers in clinking armor more than 3 centuries ago. From point of continuous historical record, this city antedates St. Augustine, Florida, and on every side something is called to one's attention as being the oldest in the United States. The glory and the fame of this town depends on its antiquity. Santa Fe does not aspire to modern things. Its architecture is a combination of Indian, Pueblo, and early Spanish style. Many of the buildings are splendid specimens of this happy combination. Here, too, is the center of a new school of art, for there is somewhat pretentious colony of artists located here and at the plan of the town is Spanish, with central plaza and narrow streets. The Catholic Church of San McGill is the oldest church edifice in the United States. The priest of the parish conducted us through the ancient structure, carefully pointing out the oldest church bell in the United States, which had been cast in Spain. He showed us the spot at the altar under which Vargas, the oldest Spanish governor, was buried. Across the alley from the church, he showed us the oldest house in Europe. He told us some of the most ancient jokes in the United States, and we were glad to get outside once more and see some of the oldest sunshine in the United States. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We walked down the oldest street in the United States and went into a restaurant which looked very modern, but we suspected that we were served some of the oldest chicken in the United States. The 50 miles square around Santa Fe comprises the most interesting area of that size in America. In this area are found the homes of the ancient cliff dwellers. Their communal houses sometimes contain as many as 1,000 rooms. The builders of the colossal modern hotels of 1,000 rooms are not starting anything new, for this mode of living was in vogue in communal houses long ago. This district was center of the prehistoric population of America. And while the entire history of this ancient race has not yet been unearthed, enough has been found to assure us that this was the site of prehistoric metropolis. We halted a day in this interesting city of sightseeing. The influence of Spanish occupancy is still felt. The old families still use the Spanish language, and commercial houses use both Spanish and English. The Indian city of Taos nearby is the center of Indian culture. The natives live as they did many centuries ago, without any of the modern improvements. It is an artistic center and a very interesting spot. At the Vergas Hotel, where we are living during our stay in Santa Fe, we have met many noted people. It is quite a mecca for tourists, and among them we find several lecturers who are gathering data for discourse on Indian lore and cliff dwelling, some artists who are sketching or painting the region, a Burton Holmes cameraman who is making a series of motion pictures, and many other interesting people. The run from Las Vegas to Santa Fe was 77 miles. Belen, New Mexico, Thursday evening, October 20th, year of 1921. We left Santa Fe about 9:30 this morning. We came away from the city of Holy Faith reluctantly, and the memory of it will long linger with us. The last sign that we saw on the mountain road as we reached the city limits was, "Goodbye, good luck, and God bless you." We headed southwest towards the mountains on the Albuquerque Road. 18 miles out, we passed over a Bajada Hill. We had discussed the difficulties of this route and had been warned by tourists to beware of Bajada Hill, as it was the most risky and hazardous grade we would encounter. True, it proved to be the steepest grade. We have so far met. The altitude of the top of the mountain is 8,000 feet above sea level, and the base has an elevation of 3,500 feet. From top to bottom, the descent is very rapid. It is more than quick. One feels as if the car were going to fall over the curve in the road below. But one is out of this curve and into the next one so quickly that no time would be gained by falling. The road winds down the mountainside in a series of hairpin curves and looks like a snake in motion. Twisting and turning, we kept getting lower and lower, and as the road is very narrow and the turns very sharp, unless one drives carefully, he may have to back up to get around some of the curves if he is driving a big car. There are 48 curves in this road, from the top of the hill to the bottom, and the distance is but 1.5 miles. From the foot of the hill, we pushed forward over the fair roads of Albuquerque, where we arrived about 1 o'clock. for 10 miles before we reached the city. We found the road well paved. After lunch in this, New Mexico's largest city, we continued over good roads to Barron, New Mexico, where we are staying for the night. The geographies give Belen a population of 2,000, but all we could see in this town were several stores, a movie theater, and a Fred Harvey's restaurant at the Santa Fe station. The day's run was 99 miles. Thank you, Jasmine. Magdalena, New Mexico, Friday evening, October 21st, year of 1921. After breakfast at Harvey's at Belen, we again headed westward. The road ran through a country partially mountainous and partially prairie. Now we would be running along the top of a mountain on a tableland, and again we would be rolling along a dry river bottom. The country was mostly barren, with very little cultivation. Here and there were herds of cattle and goats. Every now and then we would pass a group of Indians beside the highway. The land was mostly a sandy waste with green hummocks scattered over it. Occasionally there were bunches of palmetto and cactus. During the day we passed a dead rattlesnake and several skeletons of animals. Crossing the Rio Grande, we found ourselves on an upgrade which passed through an Indian village of adobe houses and on into the mountains. The grade developed into a steep ascent called Fisher's Hill. At the top was an amazing view of the valley, mountains, and plain. The descent was very precipitous. Can't read that word. And is called Johnson's Grade, outrivaling Bahada Hill. We stopped at Socorro for midday lunch, and a short distance out of the village we started up another mountain road which led into Devil's Canyon. We found this the most difficult mountain road so far, principally on the account of the many stones in it. We agree that Devil's Canyon was rightly named, for it is a devil of an automobile ride through it. The road was narrow, winding, and treacherous, and the grade took us up a mile and a half in the air. But we continued over a mountain and through valley passes for 20 miles before we reached Magdalene, named the town Magdalena. Today's run was 77 miles. A mountain road through the great mining district of Ottoman, Arizona, Springville, Arizona, Saturday evening, October 21st, 1921. We left Magdalena at 8:45 this morning, emerging immediately into rolling prairie land. The roads were fairly good, but the country was sterile and covered with sagebrush and cactus. We soon, however, encountered very bad roads which continued on a past Datel, where we crossed the Continental Divide about noon. We crossed the Arizona state line about 5:30 and drove into the Springville about 7 p.m., when it had become quite dark. This town is more than 100 miles from any railroad. Consequently, all prices are high. Here we were charged 50 cents per gallon for our gas, and the prices of other things were in proportion. A Saturday night dance was on at the Apache Tavern, where we are staying for the night. There were no Apache Indians at the dance, although they belonged to the oldest families living in that neighborhood. The cowboys and their girls came in from a radius of more than 50 miles, some on horseback and some in automobiles. Some of the cowboys carried guns in their hip pockets, and some wore them slung on their belts in front. Most of them were large handled guns. Some looked like small cannon. The guns jumped around with them when they danced the foxtrot, but there was no shooting so far as we saw. Although they had hard faces and strutted with defiant devil may care attitude, the dance passed off as peaceably. I asked my tourist friend from Kansas City, who was also driving through Los Angeles, and whom we had passed on the road once or twice during the past week, if he thought we were safe in this town. He had caught up with us again here in Springerville, and assured that the cowboys were peaceable and friendly, but had to carry guns as they rode an open ranges. He said he had driven through and stopped on in this town on several previous occasions. The day's run was 134 miles. Winslow, Arizona, Sunday evening, October 23rd, 1921. We left Springerville this morning with the impression that it was a very wild and woolly western town. Picturesque groups of cowboys galloped down Main Street, disturbing the Sunday quiet with an occasional yell of, "Yay!" I'm not sure what that is, but they were all in regulation dress with full equipment, their guns being well exposed. They seemed to be taking a day off and were endeavoring to demonstrate to onlookers just how tough they were. The town being just outside the pale of civilization on account of being so far away from a railroad, perhaps has some excuse for its air of wildness. The drive today led through a rolling prairie district with some mountains and canyons. We passed many Apache Indians along the way, and about noon we stopped for an hour at the Petrified Forest. Near Hallbrook. This is at once a strange and marvelous sight. We were quite fascinated. Trees of all sizes and turned to stone were scattered around. The stone is of beautiful colorings, red, blue, yellow, and gold, with multitudes of wonderful tints and shades. The bark and the wood were all intact. In ages past, these trees had been turned into chalcedony, topaz, carnelian, agate, and amethyst. On looking over the ground, we could well imagine it is a vast jewelry store. It is said that this marvelous transformation took place before Adam's time. Through eons, the sybaritic chemistry of nature worked on these ancient trunks and with astounding results. The mountains around gave a weird background to the strange scene. They were of a chalky white color, streaked with red and blue. The earth was formed in such shapes as to give an illusion of massive buildings with pillars and buttresses. It looked like some imperial city of an ancient times crumbling to decay. The scene shifted to barren country as we moved on to Winslow. This town is misnamed, however, for the wind certainly is not low tonight. It howls and blows with ever increasing violence. Today's run was 133 miles. And it's going to be a wrap on page 71. And we'll come back for part 3 on another day. Thank you again for listening, and you guys have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.